All right, well, it's episode 98. We're closing in on Thanksgiving. Destries today is going to talk about a couple concert experiences he's had. I'm going to be talking about something in Bible. I'm going to feel it out and see how to work it in with what Destries talking about. Mm-hmm. But episode 98, Deep Dives.
So if you're going to relate what my concert experience is to the Bible, you're going to have to really stretch.
All right. Challenge accepted.
This was pre-Christ going to these concerts. So, but you're the man to do it. But first, I have gifts. So my sister-in-law, Hope, is down, and she is taking care of her mother and my wife's mother, my mother-in-law, for the week. And Donna is with me at our house. So Donna usually lives with her mother. So every so often, Hope comes down, gives Donna a break. Donna comes over with me. We hang out. And on the way down from Georgia, where she's from, there's a Buc-ee's. And it's tradition for her to say, "Do y'all want anything from Buc-ee's?" And it's tradition for us to say, yes.
Is this the Buc-ee's on 85?
Yes.
When was she there?
Yesterday.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, I was just at Buc-ee's this weekend on 85.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, last time she came down, she brought, I had brisket sandwiches for a week. And I'm like, man, I am done with brisket sandwiches. I got like 4 of them, right? So this time I said, I'd like to have one. And maybe Chris, here, oh boy, and Josh would like one.
Oh, I love the brisket sandwiches.
Good.
That's like my go-to when I go there.
There's nothing skimpy about these sandwiches, right? You can make 2 sandwiches out of that thing and be totally happy with it.
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Do I eat this on air?
Whenever you want to. I got one at the house.
I can see it now. You'll be doing all the talking. We'll be doing all the eating.
Nope, that's right. That's right. Keep going.
It's just one of those things you don't get every day. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I was hoping y'all would like that. I figured you would.
Oh my God, yes.
Good. Thanks to Hope for stopping and getting those for them.
Thank you, Hope.
Donna has one. I've got one. I'm going to eat mine later today. So anyway, there you go.
Wow. Now abideth faith, hope, and charity, and today the greatest of these is hope.
That's right. She lives up to her name. She's an outstanding young lady, a woman of God. She teaches great Bible studies, and she's just a perfect person. Other than my wife, she's the most perfect person on earth. All right, so I've gone to some concerts.
Okay.
In my past, and I've got some tickets, but let me do this first. So
what was the first concert you ever went to?
Let me do this first, and I'll tell you. Just as a constant in our broadcast, I'd like to do what I've been listening to during the week, and
right.
I have not been able to get past Blood on the Tracks, Bob Dylan. I've been listening to that this week, just like I was last week, and I've started listening to Eric Clapton Unplugged also.
Okay.
Eric Clapton is not much different than Bob Dylan in their iconicness. Everybody knows who Eric Clapton is. Pretty much everybody knows who Bob Dylan is, but Eric Clapton is a guy who, he's like the godfather, you know what I mean, of guitar. He's so good. He's so smooth. And, other guitarists look up to him even today, and he's still around. He's had somewhat of a tragic life. Tragic things happened to him. I believe he lost his son at his young age, his son's young age. I'm not sure of the details, but from all that pain sometimes comes really creative and really inspired music. You know, it's hard to come up with a word to describe something that might come from that type of pain, but If you're creative and gifted like him, you can't help but think that it will come out whenever he makes new music after a loss like that. So anyway, he's somebody to look up to and very inspirational. So I always like to listen to him. So let me pull these things out here, and we'll talk about some of the concerts that I went to. Sound good, Chris?
Sounds fine.
Duran Duran. No, that's not true. Go see Duran Duran.
Well, while you're getting that out, Eric
Yes.
Clapton collaborated on an album commemorating one of my favorite guitarists of all time, Chet Atkins.
Okay.
And I think he did 2 tracks on that. But I just recently learned about this album. I haven't got it yet. It's a tribute album to Chet Atkins, but it's got like Vince Gill and Alison Krauss and Eric
There you
Clapton
go.
and all these guys on there. So I'm looking forward to listening to that.
Yeah,
sometime in the near future.
It's a great example of the greats. Vince Gill, my goodness, to me, one of the most underrated guitarists in Nashville. I don't know if he's underrated anymore, but every time I see him, I think, man, I forget how good he is.
Right, yeah.
He's so good at singing and writing. He's like an old school guy to me. You
Right.
know,
Well, this album has a lot of those because like Bradley Walker, Brad Paisley, Tommy Emmanuel, who's a phenomenal guitar player and hilarious to watch. Just all of those guys are on there. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So here are some concert tickets.
Oh, my.
These are not even all of them. These are the ones that I still have. And some of these are doubles because I took somebody with me, but most of them are singles. So not in any order, not in any chronological order. Charlie Daniels Band and Marshall Tucker Band. Fayetteville, North Carolina. Let's see. What's the date on that?
My daughter has, speaking of Charlie Daniels, my daughter has the entire song of Devil Went Down to Georgia committed to memory.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, funny. I don't have the date on this one, but get this. $12.75 for
goodness.
a concert, a double concert.
Gee.
Right?
Was that like the 1920s?
It was certainly in the 80s.
You're old, Dusty.
I don't know. It was in the 80s sometime or another. So Charlie Daniels Band, Marshall Tucker Band, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Okay, there is one. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. June 1990, Tuesday in Wilmington, North Carolina. This was whenever I was going to school in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina. This is the first time I saw them. And I've got a story for this one. It's not really a positive story, but it is a story. So this was $20. Crosby, Stills, and Nash, $20. It was was General. No, I was on the floor. J19. Did I give the date? June 1990. So I'm sitting there with the girl that I brought, who I have been dating for a long time, and we're sitting on the floor, facing the stage, and we're right on the edge. So she's sitting on the edge of the walkway, very wide walkway, and I'm one seat in, and we're sitting there waiting, and we're just looking around. Since I was going to school there, I knew a lot of people who were going to be there, so I was looking around looking for Dave and looking for my other roommates and things, and I saw somebody walking up that I knew. I didn't really know him. That he was a friend of a friend, and he had a girl on one side and a girl on another side. He was walking up, and I just kind of saw him, acknowledged him, he acknowledged me, and I go on looking at the stage and everything. And the next thing I know, I'm looking to my right. He's got, who was my girlfriend at the time, in a headlock, kissing her right on the mouth. And I looked over, and I was shocked. I've never hit anybody before in my life. I've never found the need to hit somebody to get my point across. But that night, I didn't know what else to do. So I abruptly removed his face from her face as fast as I could with as much force as I could, because I didn't see any other option. Mm-hmm. The instant when I looked over and saw her eyes back like this, her eyes were wide open, her head was back, and his face was right on hers, I didn't see any other option.
You clocked him.
Heck yeah. I'm not sure what else to do. I didn't think any words were going to make my point. I certainly didn't think that.
Excuse me, sir.
I mean, it was so quick. I didn't understand what was happening. So that's what happened. And what come to find, and people stopped me, and he said, so, you know, he didn't try to fight or anything. He was like, man, it was just at that point in time in my head, there was nothing this joker could have said to make any sense. You know what I mean? You just needed to leave and get out of my face and make sure she was okay. He had walked around her. He'd walked to her. He'd put his hand around her head, put his mouth on her mouth, and then put his mouth on it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying, Josh? So it was his hand was over her mouth, and his mouth was on the other side, and it looked like he was kissing her on the face. I don't care at that point.
Right.
Even if I knew that's what he was doing, I think I still would have had the same reaction. Because, like I said, her head was back and her eyes were wide. She was sitting right here. You know what I mean? She was sitting right here next to me, and I just saw her being accosted.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what else to do. I saw him on the beach the next day.
Right.
Because, again, we have the same friend group. And he came up and apologized, and I stood up and I said, I tell you what, man, if you ever do that again, I'm going to react the exact same way. I said, I accept your apology, but that was totally uncalled for.
Well, yeah, it wasn't her choice.
Exactly, it wasn't her choice.
Theoretically, it's assault.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, that was a weird thing that happened at the beginning of a very peaceful night. Isn't that weird, Chris? That's the last thing you expect to happen.
True.
I wonder why he did it.
That's what I asked him. Or actually, I didn't ask him. My roommate at the time, Dave, told me he was full of himself that night because he had rented a limo, and he got some of his friends to go with him. So he was paying for everything. He was the big deal that night. You know, and in retrospect, whenever I saw him walking in, he had his arms like this, and two girls were on his side. He kind of felt untouchable, kind of thought, and it was kind of living in his big head, you know.
But you weren't part of that group, though.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't part of that group at all.
That's funny.
It was funny. To this day, it's just I bet you know he remembers that. You know he does. Probably one of the biggest mistakes of his life, he thinks. You know. So anyway, that's what happened. And again, I don't take pride in giving somebody pain, but there's sometimes I don't know what else to do. I didn't know what else to do right then. I just didn't know what else to do. I was, in my mind, I was protecting her, and I was going to continue to protect her until he stopped or somebody stopped me, I guess. You know, I may have been temporarily insane. I don't know. I felt like I was in control. But anyway, Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Good times, good times.
Now, the next time I saw Crosby, Stills, and Nash was with my lovely wife, and it was a much better time. Nobody tried to accost her except for me, and it was okay. It was okay for her. I mean, it was mutual. Okay, let's just say that. Okay, we'll go on about that. That's the first time Donna is hearing this, by the way. She's never known about this. Oh, look at this Grateful Dead. Y'all have heard the Grateful Dead before.
Yeah.
Okay. March.
Minor little bands.
Not
a huge fan.
March 21st, 1986.
Wow.
1986. General admission.
I was 6 years old.
Wow. How old was I? 86. I was born in 64.
I was in first grade.
Wow. How old would I have been?
I'd have been 23. So you'd have been 22.
I was 22. I was very wise. 22, very wise.
Miss Ballard's class.
We can tell how
in
wise
Baptist
you are.
school.
Yeah, boy. All right. So this was at Hampton Coliseum. Boy, do I have a story about Hampton. Do you want to hear Hampton's story?
Sure.
Okay. Because here's another one. March 20th, Hampton Coliseum, 1986. So we went 2 nights in a row. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope. 3 nights in a row. March 19th, March 20th, March 21st. All right, March 19th, we pull into Hampton with Kent in the front seat. Somebody else was driving. I was in the back passengers, and there was somebody else on the left side. And it was raining, and we're coming from Laurinburg, North Carolina. It's about a 3-hour trip, I think. 2.5 hours, something like that. Our trip. It's raining. We pull into the museum, to the Coliseum late, and we're facing the Coliseum. All right, so at this time, I need to remind everybody this was pre-Christ in my life, right? So Kent sitting in front of me, and Kent is a horticulturalist. And whenever we pulled up and stopped, he started participating in his hobby as a horticulturalist. And so,
This was before Christ.
This is before Christ.
A little bit after.
Listen, the engine wasn't even beginning to cool down. On the window, the door opens. What in the? Come with me, sir. The cop pulls him out of the seat. He's like, "Hey, I'm participating in my horticulturalist hobby here. It happened so quick. There wasn't time to even be scared. Police officer pulls out the front two people. I'm sitting in the back seat. They evidently had enough. Whatever they were looking, the police had enough they wanted, and they took those guys away, and I'm still sitting in the back seat. Door opened. Can't, we'll see you.
See you later, bud.
We'll be in here. We'll be in the Coliseum. Wasn't funny at the time.
Yeah. So they didn't get to go to the concert at all?
Not that night. No, they spent the night in jail because evidently horticulture is illegal in Richmond or in Hampton,
right?
Hampton, Virginia.
That specific kind of horticulture.
It wasn't. Yeah, we probably should have checked that before we went there. So they spent the night in jail. We got them out the next day, bonded out, and then we went to the next 2 nights shows in Hampton, Virginia. Boy, I tell you what, there's a lot of things happening at these shows. Not in the shows, not during the concerts. You know what I mean? Anyway, okay.
Which is funny because when I go to a concert, I just go to a concert.
That's what I want to go with you. I want to go with you. So there's Hampton. There's 3 nights in Hampton, 1986. Okay, remember I used to live in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina. Oh, look, here's the Grateful Dead. October 22nd, 1989. Lower Tower, let's see, seat 15. Charlotte, North Carolina, Grateful Dead. I don't remember that show. Okay.
Horticulture.
I also, too, was a amateur horticulturalist. You asked me about my first concert. It may have been ZZ Top in 1983. It couldn't have been because I graduated in 82. My first concert was probably 79 or 78, something like that. But here's ZZ Top, 1983, Fayetteville, North Carolina. $10.75, Chris. This was whenever ZZ Top was hitting hard, man. ZZ Top was good, and they were very popular. So this isn't like a reunion tour or anything. This is ZZ Top really being good for $10.75. This Coliseum was small, but there was a bunch of. It was a bad place to go to a show just because there's always fights, and I don't want to say. It's a military town. I don't want to say because it's a military town there was a lot of fights, but they sure did seem to go together a lot. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't mean probably not the officers. It's probably the guys who just got into town and they're drunk and whatever. But there was a lot of fights at these shows, man. Mm-hmm. And it was back when in 83. It was back when I didn't mind crowds, so I'd be down front like this, with people pushing you all around and everything. And if their fight breaks out, you're in the fight. You're there,
Right.
Never again, never exchange punches. And these military guys, you don't fight these military guys; they'll kill you.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're big and they're ugly and they're muscular. I don't want to fight these guys. I weighed 130 pounds when I graduated high school, and this was only a year after. I know I may have weighed 135. I don't know. I was not big or mean, but I was ugly. So I had that going for me, but it didn't work. Rossington Collins. Does anybody know who Rossington Collins is?
Nope.
So this is an offshoot of Leonard Skinner. Rossington, Gary Rossington, and
That sounds like a name you would change for showbiz purposes.
Rossington was the last name. Collins was the last name.
Sounds like a law firm.
It does, doesn't
Right.
it? Same Coliseum, Fayetteville, North Carolina, November 15th, 1980. So this was 2 years before I graduated. This was one of the first ones that I went to. I loved Rossington Collins. I loved Leonard Skinner. $25. Price includes $25. Yeah. No, that's not right.
That's just a really odd name.
Rossington.
It's like if your name is Curtis Jackson, you want to go into rap, you change your name to 50 Cent. 50 Cent, you know?
Well,
if you're Rossington Collins and you want to go into rock, just stay Rossington
Collins.
Rossington
Collins. This was Southern rock and roll. A lot like Leonard Skinner. Very good. I loved
because
that.
Leonard Skinner's not his real name either.
No, Leonard Skinner was their it was their janitor's name in high school.
Yeah.
There's the janitor's name of most of the guys that were in Leonard Skinner. I think that was his full name, Leonard Skinner, if I'm not mistaken. All right, here's Blackfoot. You know who Blackfoot is?
I've heard.
It's a
of it.
tribe of Indians in North Dakota, I believe.
Well, I think that's
True,
the same. The lead guy was an Indian, probably from that tribe. This is 81 general admission, and this was in the Cumberland Coliseum too. This was 30 miles from my house. So this was. I went to a lot of shows there. Loverboy.
I haven't heard of them either.
I've heard of that.
Turn me loose. Come on,
I've heard of
guys.
that, yeah.
Okay, that's Loverboy. So check this out. September 2nd, 1982. So this is a great example of the good decisions that I've made in my life. Okay, of the positive decisions that I've made in my life. I think it started before September 2nd, 1982, but this was the launch of the really smart decisions that I've made. This was the night before I started college. This was in Charlotte, 2.5 hours away from my house. And I actually this was Thursday, I think Friday was an orientation, if I'm not mistaken, of the my first, I went to community college. So I didn't get home till like 4 a.m. I took a nap and then I went to college. And from then on, I had a stellar career in college, man. I brought home C's almost every other, and that was the best I've ever. I got an A one time in abnormal psychology.
We wonder why you got abnormal psychology.
I could have wrote that book, man. I'm telling you.
It's like studying in front of a mirror.
That's right. I went into this class walking proud, going, "Who needs to know something?"
You notice he said this
You're
was
like an open
the
textbook
night
in that
before.
class.
He said this was the night before when he started making good decisions. And all those good decisions now he's made. Well, guess what? He's now hanging out with us.
It's another step in the good decision department. That's right. I don't think I ever got non-tired from this concert because I just stayed up all night and then went to college the next day. It was just anyway. That's the thing about this concert. It was in Charlotte. I went with Johnny Good, Kent Pravat, Robbie, all my friends from high school. Y'all remember Three on the Tree, right?
Oh, yeah.
And a truck, the way the transmission. So this Carolina blue truck, Ford truck of Johnny Good's college roommate, high
Was
school
he from
friend.
Louisiana?
No,
Oh.
Lumberton, North Carolina, Goldsboro, actually. We took his truck. We had 3 people in the front, 3 people in the cab, and 4 people in the back. An open open bed, not no seat, nothing. We just riding 2.5 hours up to a concert, and we're just back there
chugging them.
and just living like nobody cares, man. Like it was okay. Like, you know what I mean?
Let me tell you, one of the coolest and craziest trucks I've ever seen. Back home where I used to live in Texas, there's a used car lot in the next town over, and I remember driving by once, and there's an old pickup truck that was obviously, it was first sale in the lot. It was a hunting truck, and it was like obviously hand spray painted camo, but in the back of the truck they had like welded a deer stand into the back of the truck.
Yeah.
And so, it had this huge deer stand, way up high, but then there was an assembly of linkages that went from the deer stand down to the steering wheel and the gas pedal and brake pedal, so they could drive this truck from the deer stand. And then bolted to the front bumper. Someone had gotten an old van or whatever and took the back seat out of it, welded it to the front bumper. So this was like the best combination of like the most redneck you could possibly be, but also an engineering marvel, because they rigged it to where they could drive it from the deer stand, and on the front bumper you got some bubbas with their guns just sitting on a seat welded to the front bumper. Nobody's in the truck at all. This thing's driving down through the woods.
That's beautiful. I bet they didn't have seatbelts in that front bucket seat.
Nope, not at all. But I
bet they had a drink holder though.
If I could go back in time with money, I would buy that thing.
Man, no doubt.
Just to stick it in my yard as a
beautiful
conversation piece, because that thing was amazing.
Well, that was an iconic piece of engineering marvel, wasn't it?
It was inspiring. It's like I want to be an engineer.
Oh man! All right, so that's Loverboy. Roshan and Collins again. I saw this must be that was someone I went with, probably Kent. Reba McEntire.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, Reba McEntire,
Here's your one
Walnut
chance,
Creek.
Fancy, don't let me down.
Yes, Walnut Creek Amphitheater. So this is an amphitheater outside the front. The people that really paid money had a cover, but I was on the grass in the very back. This was August 7th, 1992. Friday, August 7th, 1992. I can't see how much I paid for it. $17.75 for Reba McEntire. Wow. I mean, these things are $150 now, if not more.
Right.
If not more, right? I would think. Anyway, this was seriously, even to today, one of the best concerts I've ever seen. I was really a big fan of Reba McEntire's whenever she was coming up. When she made it big. Whenever I found out about her. And it was just one of those that it was right in the sweet spot. I just loved everything she did. I knew every song she played. A Reba McEntire concert is really choreographed in a way. It's not necessarily choreographed dancing-wise, but it is like a show.
Right.
Where she has different dresses she wears, and she's very intentional about her movements and everything, But she did it in such a way, to me, that it worked. It really did. It worked really well. The lights were good. It was elegant. The sound was good. We had a blanket and we were outside and it was good weather. It was just one of those things that really came together really well. Didn't have to hit anybody. It was nothing like that. So that was a good time. Okay. Oh, look at this. The Grateful Dead. Okay. July. Did it spill?
No, it was empty. I had it balanced on my knee, and it just didn't have the stability.
Check this out. We tried to go through. This was 3 nights. This was night 1. This is at the Meriwether Post Pavilion. $11 to go see the Grateful Dead. This was July. It would have been July 30th, 1985. Outside again. I didn't even get near the stage. Nowhere near the stage. Grateful Dead's down there somewhere. But it was the Grateful Dead show. It was 3 nights in a row. And I got through the last night without them tearing my ticket.
Oh, cool.
The first 2 nights, I wasn't able to. The last night I was, because I think I just snuck behind somebody, you know what I mean? And
Right.
we're all pushing through the gate and everything. And so I just kept it in my right hand behind Kent. And they just say, so there you go. It's a full ticket.
Wow.
Which is good because it has a year on there. I couldn't tell
Right.
from the first 2 years, from the first 2 tickets. Dude, $11. June 30th, 1985, Sunday. Sunday at 6 p.m. Sunday. I should have been at church, John. This was Monday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. What a time to have a show, man. Anyway, Kent and I went. All the Grateful Dead shows I went.
You don't really hear about that because it was all the same venue, right?
All the same venue 3 nights in a row.
Yeah, you don't really hear that much. At least I don't hear that much anymore of like a concert being a 3-day concert, same venue.
They always did that. They did that frequently. Whenever they could, they did it frequently. I don't know if they did it for their fans, but the fans really liked it because a lot of them traveled around to see them. So if they could just camp out for 3 nights, that was a big deal. This last one, I have no idea what it is because the band ends with GE. It was $8. It was at the Charleston, South Carolina. I was in balcony. I'll have to figure out what that was. Friday, May 22nd, 1981. Any guesses? Ends with GE. Anyone?
BGs?
I was just gonna say that too. I think that's GEE.
Yeah. I'll have to figure that out. I didn't realize that I didn't know what this was. Was it just kind of in there? Anyway.
May 22nd, you said?
Yeah, I'll have
81?
to. I'll have to look.
That was the day before my birthday, 2 days before I graduated high school.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. Last one. Grateful Dead.
No.
I'm sensing a theme.
November 2nd, 1985. November 2nd, 1985. Richmond Coliseum. How about that? Yep. Grateful Dead. It obviously got very torn. And I don't really remember much about that concert just because it was a long time ago.
So what did you say your first concert was?
I think it was Styx, Foghat, and Leonard Skinner. I believe it was. I remember it was a 3-band night. They both, all 3 played for like an hour or something. It was at Cumberland Coliseum, that small coliseum.
This was high school.
Mm-hmm. This was it was maybe 79 or 80, but I believe it was those 3 because I know I saw them, and I don't have a ticket stub for them. So it could have been that. And I think I saw the Dead one other time other than this. Saw the Dead 13 times, I think.
My first concert was at the Houston Livestock. Whoa, my mic is moving. My first concert was the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. It was the only part I remember was Anne Murray. And my dad said,
"You needed me."
Yep.
You needed me.
One day at a time. I think she also. No.
You're welcome.
But so I texted my dad. I'm like, hey, was this the first concert I went to? He's like, yes, pretty sure. And he's like, Ronnie Millsap headlined, but Anne Murray was there too.
Wow. Hardcore country, man.
Yep. Well, so one of my favorite things from as a kid, growing up in Houston area, is once a year the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo would come to town, and I loved that thing as a kid.
Reba did a lot of those. You may have you seen? Did you ever see Reba?
Yeah, I saw Reba McEntire there once, but we went to it, several times when I was a kid. But I just always loved, all the different events, and I still to this day love going to any rodeos. But walking up and down the aisles and seeing all the animals tied there and getting, food, like especially at the, I remember at the livestock show, they would have different booths or whatever where people would sell jerky, just all kinds of different jerky, and I loved that.
Sure.
And going up, and my parents have a picture of me as a baby. They went to livestock show and rodeo, and they have a picture of me where I think my mom or dad's like holding me out like this, and I have my hand stretched out, and I'm grabbing one of the horns of one of the bulls.
Oh, cool, man.
And so like I had been going to it since I was a baby, but I always enjoyed it, and we would mainly go there not mainly, but the reason we'd go there is because there's usually someone my dad wanted to see.
Okay, concert. Yeah.
Ronnie Millsap,
Right.
Kathy Mattea, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So but
nice.
that's the first concert I remember going to.
Okay.
Was
All
Anne
right.
Marie and Ronnie Millsap.
Very nice. Very nice. They're fun. I don't, these days, I know you still go to concerts.
Going to one in a couple weeks
Are
in
you-
Atlanta.
Who are you going to see?
It's a Christian artist named Chris Renzema.
Okay.
My daughter really, really likes him, and we had a chance to go to Mobile and see him a couple years ago, and she was so excited. But at the last minute, the concert got canceled because he was sick.
Oh, no.
And she was so disappointed, and he never came back to Mobile
Okay.
since then. And so I can't remember if it was Mobile or the Wharf, regardless. But she texted me a couple months ago. She's like, he's coming to, I think it's the Buckhead Theater, the one we went to a while back to see another band. So it's within driving distance.
Yep.
We'll go up there, get a room.
Yep.
My wife and daughter and I, and we'll go to the concert, come back. So it was like,
Nice.
we need to see this one because she missed it the last time.
Right. You bringing friends or just you and her?
Nope, just
cool.
just me, my wife, and daughter.
All right. The Buckhead Theater, we saw Van Morrison there. Donna and I saw Van Morrison there. And what I remember this Chris was really weird, at least the way that we got in. It was, if you know anything about Buckhead, it's a pretty high dollar place. And it was a neighborhood, went into a neighborhood, big house, Coliseum. It's an amphitheater, isn't it? So it's right, like there's a house here, Coliseum's right here. That's
Right.
the way came
the
in.
Buckhead Theater is indoors.
It is indoors?
Yeah.
I wonder what theater we went to. It was Buckhead is there a Buckhead amphitheater?
It might have been the out in the Buckhead area, there's Fernbank. And Fernbank is a big science center, and then they may have had an amphitheater there. I'm not 100% sure,
Okay.
but that may be what you saw.
Maybe it was. It was really strange. It was nice. It was very welcoming. It was clean. It wasn't huge. You know what I mean? It was a nice place to see a show, especially Van Morrison. Most of the time in the Van Morrison show, I don't have tickets for Van Morrison. Where are my tickets for Van Morrison?
Would it be in Chastain Park?
Yes.
Okay.
Chastain
Yeah,
Park.
Chastain,
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We've seen him 3 times, and that's the kind of show you sit down and enjoy. You know what I mean? But when Moondance gets up, you get up and go, and about halfway through, you go, I don't want to dance anymore. And you sit back down, and everybody else is down. It's a very nice, kind of jazzy kind of show. But yeah, Chastain Park, that was it.
Okay.
That was it. Anyway, those are my experiences pre-Christ, and I don't think I have any concert experiences post-Christ.
You know the difference between an amphitheater and a theater? Amphitheater is all the way around. A theater is only halfway around.
Oh, okay. So ours were theaters then. They weren't amphitheaters.
I think they still call them amphitheaters nowadays. I don't know.
Generally, if it's an outdoor venue, they call it an amphitheater kind of thing.
Yeah. Is Chastain an amphitheater? Does it say amphitheater? Chastain Park?
Let's see, Chastain Park. Chastain Park.
I may be getting them mixed up, but who knows?
They call it an amphitheater.
Okay.
But it's only halfway around.
Okay.
There's
That was
actually
it.
one at the old Southeastern Fairgrounds in Atlanta. After that fair closed down, they built a huge amphitheater there, and so there's several amphitheaters around Atlanta, the Atlanta area.
All right. Those all, by the way, those are all post-Christ. Took my wife to see Van Morrison. It was a nice concert. You just kind of no stress. It's really
Right.
Anyway, it was really good.
No horticulture.
No horticulture. Didn't need horticulture.
It's just weird. Y'all have been to so many concerts. I've been to 3 concerts in my life. Like 1979, I went to see Rush in Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing a kind of the Cherokee Casino.
Mm-hmm.
They had tickets for like $15 a person.
Mm-hmm.
So I got talked into going to that. And the last time I went was a couple of years ago. That Pensacola's White Tie Ensemble. They do a cover thing.
Okay.
They're really good, but that's the 3 I've been to my entire life.
All right. I did see Rush too. They were so good. Rush is just so good. They've got a new drummer now, and they're going back on tour. Mm-hmm. They got a young lady who is going to be playing drums for them. Which, whenever Neil Peart died, nobody ever thought that they'd go back on tour as Rush, because you don't replace Neil Peart as a drummer. But they're going to do it. I'm 61 years old, and I have a difficult time sometimes getting out of the house. These guys are 75, 70 years old, going on tour. I admire them. That's good.
They've got doctors that give them things
Good
so their joints
gravy,
don't hurt.
man.
We don't have that.
Son of a gun. I just don't get it, man. I mean, I'm very happy for them that they want to do that. I'm sure they're not touring like they used to tour. You know what I mean? If they've got the money, they'll fly in, they'll fly out, then they'll go to another venue, they'll fly in, fly out. They won't ride a bus to get from place to place to place, riding with everybody else, I wouldn't think, but who knows.
Well, it was like you said, they used to do concerts, like you said, 2-3 days in a row.
Mm-hmm,
Nobody does that now. They come in, they do their show, they're out, they're 3 cities away or whatever.
Yep.
And then they're 3 cities away somewhere else, whatever kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And the only time I've heard of somebody doing that was there's a violinist that was called Lindsay Sterling. I'm sure you've heard of her.
Mm-hmm. Lindsay Sterling. She's the one that
Lindsay
dances
Sterling.
around while she plays.
Yeah, she dances around and plays. But
cool.
She actually sold out in Vegas, and then she sold out the next concert. So she stayed there like 3 days in a row, almost 4 days in a row, playing for her fans.
Cool.
She's the one that Sharon Osbourne said that she would never make anything.
Oh, okay.
And now
She
is,
was on
killing it.
American Idol or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Or no,
I've heard
America's Got Talent, I think.
America's Got Talent, yeah.
I have heard that story. She said it on America's Got Talent when she was a judge, right?
Yeah, told her she would never make anything, and now she's selling out, 3-4 concerts
Good for
in a
her.
row.
That's fantastic.
Here's what I wonder, though. Is she able to play the violin without dancing around?
That's true. I've never seen her not play the violin
She
and not
moves
dance
the
around.
The reason I ask is because a while back a video popped up in my recommendations, whatever, on YouTube. It was played off as like this informal, like by chance encounter. A guy was playing the piano on the street, and Lindsay Sterling walks up and just plain clothes, whatever, like, "Hey, can I play with you?" And so she gets out her violin and they start playing. And but she's just like, I think jeans and t-shirt or whatever, starts playing the violin. All of a sudden, she starts doing her dance stuff there, and it looked just so awkward. And I was like, is it possible that she can just play it without dancing, or is that like part of the creative process?
Known for her like what they call dubstep or something.
Yeah,
dancing,
dubstep.
and then that's what she does. She's a talented violin player.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But it was just kind of blows your mind. Actually, I saw something yesterday, and I got to send it to you guys. Watch music on YouTube. Mm-hmm. So again, I like music, but I'm not like YouTube. I see this video pop up, and it's Porter Wagner. So I'm 62 years old, grew up like a Porter Wagner show. That's where Dolly Parton and all those people got their start. It was like pre-hee haw.
I thought it was Porter Wagner. I'm just kidding.
So I'm
Like
sitting
the
there, and it's
classical
like,
musician.
why am I seeing a Porter Wagner? This guy's walking up, and today we're gonna, in this real country twang, we're gonna. And the girl that comes, it's a modern video, but the girl looks like Linda Ronstadt.
Oh my goodness!
But it's not. And it's sitting there. But they blended the actual beginning of the Porter Wagner like intro, and AI'd it or something, and then she sings, and I'm sitting there going, and then thank you very much for performing tonight. And it's like,
wow,
that blew my mind, because I'm sitting there going, I haven't seen something on the Porter Wagner show in
Right,
45 years.
Right. How about that? Okay.
Weird. I gotta send that to y'all.
Yeah, please do. Hey, before we get off music, I did want to say this. I did. I'm still watching a documentary about Bob Dylan, and he did go through a quote spiritual awakening during one of his quote transitions of who he was. And not once did they interview Bob Dylan during this documentary, but his friends, people that were around him, were saying that, yeah, man, he really went through. He was saved. It was before he was him before, and then him after being saved. And they used the term being saved because that's what Bob Dylan. Those are the terms that Bob Dylan used. So,
well, he was brought up Jewish.
Was he?
Yeah, and from what I understand, he converted to Christianity like in the 70s and 80s, and then like went back to more of a Judaism style of belief after that. I don't know what he considers himself to be now, but
yeah, I don't either.
I think there's like a
Okay.
kind of like a full circle thing there.
I like to at least touch on the artist's spirituality, what I know of it, and I learned that last week. I also saw this thing, not an artist, but a tattoo artist, Kat
Von D.
Kat Von D. Well, what a transition she's had.
Yeah, wasn't she married to Jesse James at one time?
Yes,
yeah.
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
And the last thing that I knew she had, and I wanted to ask you about it. I don't think I have enough information to describe it, but she, what was it? She's calling herself now. Do you know? It was her being baptized, but then she found a certain church that she really likes, and she's now really getting into this type of. I think it's still Christianity, from what I can tell, but it has a certain name to it that
Orthodox?
Yes, Orthodox. Okay. So what is that? How would you describe that, as opposed to a simple Methodist or Baptist or whatever church? Still Christ.
That's a really big question.
Okay. Is it still Christ centered?
Yes.
Okay. Do they still believe that Christ is the Messiah?
Yes.
Okay. So
right.
and they believe
and where the tradition sort of starts. I mean, going all the way back to early church history, you have the Nicene Council of Nicaea and Chalcedon and all that kind of stuff. In the Nicene Creed, there was this controversy that was sort of like the straw that broke the camel's back, called the Filioque, where in
Filioque,
talking about the Holy Spirit, there was a phrase in the Nicene Creed that was a point of disagreement about is the Holy Spirit does he come from the Father, or is he like equal to the Father?
We've been
whatever.
talking about this in Gun Club.
Yeah, several weeks ago we did, when we were on the church history series. But so at the time, this was early 1000s, because this schism happened, I think, in 1054 AD. But there was like 5 church patriarchs that were like the heads of, like Christianity was kind of like under these 5 heads of the different regional churches in Europe and Asia and all that stuff. And one was the patriarch in Rome, and then we had like patriarchs in Alexandria and Antioch and Jerusalem and a couple of I forget all of them.
Milton and Flomenton.
Right. Pensacola. Greater metropolitan area of Atlanta.
Yep.
And but so there was that disagreement there, and so it was, Rome, the patriarch in Rome was the one that was sort of leading this effort to include that statement in the Nicene Creed, and the other 4 church fathers had a problem with, like, Rome isn't the boss of everybody. We're all equals. Why is Rome making this decision without consulting us? And
it's a fair question.
This kind of stuff. And so there was a schism there where Rome was over here, and the other four patriarchs split off and formed Eastern Orthodoxy.
Okay.
And so that's where you kind of have this. That's where the split happened. And now today, like, you know, as Baptists, we trace our lineage back through the Roman Catholic Church towards the Council of Nicaea. Eastern Orthodoxy, they don't trace their roots through the Catholic Church because they split off of it, the Roman Catholic Church, I should say. So, you know, Roman Catholics, you know, I'm skipping a lot here, but there was talking about schisms. Several schisms happened throughout the history of the church, but at one point, the Anglican Church, the English Church of England, split off of the Roman Catholic Church because I think King Henry IV, either fourth or eighth.
King Henry VIII wanted to get a divorce.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let him have a divorce. So he made his own church so he could get a divorce.
That's right. And divorce after that.
Yeah. And so
A few beheadings in there.
and
Oh, he was king.
there were
Good to
a
be
group,
king.
and there were a group of those that were like, well, we don't want to be part of a state church. We want to be separate. And they got exiled to Amsterdam and ran into the Mennonites, and they were proponents of baptism after salvation by immersion, not infant baptism. And so that's where like the Baptist tradition started.
Okay.
And then you have the you know, some of them like separatists coming over to America, and then the founding of the first Baptist church in America in Providence, Rhode Island, and that's where we get like the roots of what we would call modern day Baptists.
Okay.
Kind of went through that,
Okay.
And then during that whole time, because that's, you know, from 1054 on, Eastern Orthodoxy sort of went its down its own path, and there's a consistency there because it's heavily based on church traditions, the writings of the early church fathers pre 1000 AD, that kind of stuff, and so there's a lot of overlap in beliefs, but there's some nuances there where, you know, we would disagree doctrinally on a lot of things.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the Eastern Orthodox Church really doesn't have a per se pope like the Roman Catholic Church does. They have a senior leader, but there's still that, like they said, the original body, like they had the 5 leaders, but there's like 10 leaders.
It's like a patriarch.
And patriarchal system. And then one person at a certain point assumes the role of like the tiebreaker or whatever. That's kind of like their pope. It's
and here again, I'm describing something that I'm not part of. So there's going to be a little bit of inaccuracy in what I'm saying and a lot of nuance.
Sure.
No, but you're very accurate. Remember, I historically studied medieval, you know, like the Russians, a lot of your Slavic countries. So that's part of your Eastern Orthodox Church. It's very similar to Catholic in a lot of practices, but it's vastly different on how they approach things.
Right. Well, the small video clip I saw, she was wearing garb that in the background looked a lot like Catholicism, but you could tell there's something a little different about it. It was brighter. Right. There was a lot of like gold and white colors. She was wearing a very beautiful garb. What she was wearing, and I assume that was part of the religion because she was either taking communion or doing something religiously.
Yes, they're very. They hold in very high esteem the practice of iconography. Like if you go into any Orthodox church and you look around, on the inside of the building, like paintings of saints and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And where the iconography sort of manifests itself in the belief system is like you can pray to these saints because if these saints are gathered around the throne of God, then you can pray to them and they
intercede for you.
Yeah, intercede, that kind of thing. And or at least stand with you in your approach to God, that kind of thing. And here again, a ton of nuance there that I'm missing.
Okay.
But that's why before I knew Orthodox people and I was able to just ask these questions and research, I thought it was just another version of Catholic too, because it looks like that, especially with all of the the tradition and ceremony
Yep.
and iconography and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's not. And they're very strict, or very quick to point out. We broke off from them.
I bet they are.
1054.
I bet that's taught every Sunday.
And we skiz like crazy.
We skiz like crazy. Talking about a skiz, man. We
Right.
skizzed. We're still skizzing.
Exactly.
When we look at the Greek Orthodox, we have Pensacola. Okay, if you can't find a church in Pensacola, there's no hope.
Yeah.
Because there's like every corner there's one. But we have like 2 or 3 Greek Orthodox churches. We have
Yeah, we had a Greek festival just last week.
Catholic churches. We have Baptist, Methodist, you name it. That's all here.
600 and something churches in the
there's-
greater Pensacola area.
There's like I think 3 synagogues actually in Pensacola.
Yep.
So
We even have a
it's-
messianic one.
Oh, we actually do
Yeah.
have a Messianic. Okay, I didn't know that one.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, guys. There you
Man,
go.
this has been a wide range of topics.
It's a good one though.
Yeah.
It all came from the pre-Christ concerts that I went to.
Right,
And,
right.
yeah.
I tell you what I'm sort of looking into now, because, I'm like Chris, I'm super into history, and especially the history as it relates to like biblical chronology.
Yeah. Right.
And a couple times in the Gospels, we encounter these high priests named Annas and Caiaphas. They're both really important in the events surrounding Christ's death and burial and resurrection, because Annas questions Jesus and Caiaphas tries Jesus. I think Caiaphas was the one that officially pronounced the death sentence on him, and these were high priests at the time, and so one of the things I'm looking into, and I'll probably have more information about this as time goes on because it's like an ongoing thing I'm looking at, is a history of that. And what's really interesting, so when you go back in the Old Testament and you have you starting with Aaron, Moses' brother Aaron. Aaron was the first high priest, and he was made that way by God. He was appointed by God, and there was a test at the time which said, we have a tabernacle, we have a means of atoning for sin, we have a mechanism whereby God's presence can dwell with his people and yet still be separate from his people, because there's this gulf between us and God called sin, which basically says, God is perfect, and if you're going to be in the presence of that which is perfect, you also have to be perfect. And because we're not perfect, we can't be in the presence of God. And yet still God loves us, like the New Testament says, while we were yet, he showed his love towards us, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So he loves us even though we're sinners, and there's a desire on his part to dwell with us. And he even says that in the Old Testament, and the tabernacle was the mechanism for him doing that. There was that physical separation, but the presence of God was still in this building called the tabernacle, which was in the midst of the camps of Israel, and later was in the middle of the nation of Israel. And so this was also the means by which sin could be atoned for. And the way that happened was a high priest on the Day of Atonement, which was one day a year, would go through certain processes and sacrifices, one that would atone for his sins personally, so that in the eyes of God, even though he was a sinner, the punishment for that sin had been applied, and those sins had been paid for. And in a ritual sense, he was considered ritually clean, ritually perfect, and was able to go into the presence of God in that most holy place and atone on behalf of Israel. And so that high priest was a really important person.
Sure.
He had other roles and stuff too, but that was like the crux of what the high priest did. And Aaron was the first one, and he was appointed by God himself. There was a test that God instructed the heads of these Levite families to do, where they each brought their staff and left them overnight, and the one that God was appointing as the first high priest, the next morning they would come, and that staff would have budded as though it was like planted and alive.
Is that right? Okay.
And so Aaron's staff was the only one that had like a bud of almonds on it, or growth of almonds on it. And so that was the sign. Aaron, you're the high priest, and his sons, like that priestly line, came from Aaron. And so through the Old Testament, that lineage keeps going, and the son of Aaron, the grandson, the great grandson, and so on. Those were all the high priests, and that Aaronic line lasted for a really long time, all the way through the Old Testament. But then you get into this period between the Testaments. There's like I think a 600-year period where Israel, the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom of Judah, had long since been conquered by their respective conquerors, the Assyrians to the north, the Babylonians to the south, and then the Babylonians get taken over by the Persians get taken over by the Greeks. The Greek Empire, after Alexander the Great dies, splits into, was it 4 kingdoms, I think, right? Ptolemaic, Seleucids, what were the other 2?
I can't.
It was his 4 generals that basically split up the Greek Empire, and Israel was under the rule of the Seleucids, I believe, and then Rome came and conquered them, and it becomes a Roman province. Israel was, which at the time was referred to as Palestine, and during that Hellenistic period, the time after the Greeks, the first temple that Solomon built had long since been destroyed. It was destroyed when Nebuchadnezzar came and destroyed Jerusalem. I think BC 537, something like that. And so they went through that Babylonian captivity for 70 years, and then Cyrus the Great, king of Persia, he conquered the Babylonian Empire, and we read about that in Daniel. That was the night of the writing on the wall, where Daniel is interpreting this to Belshazzar, who was Nabonidus' son, and said, "You've been weighed in the balances, and you've been found wanting, and this kingdom will be given over to the Medes and the Persians." And it happened without a fight. They came in and they just took over. And we have archaeological findings that support this, because Cyrus, he had a whole bunch of these clay cylinders made that recounts the fact that he conquered Babylon without a battle. And one of the changes that Cyrus implemented was he was going to let all of these conquered people groups go back to their homes and rebuild their cities and rebuild their religious centers. And Israel was one of those. So we start into the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, where they go back and they start rebuilding the wall around Jerusalem. They start rebuilding the temple of Jerusalem. This second temple was in no way the same like awesomeness as the first temple, but it was a temple, and this was the temple that was built and like improved and added onto for several hundred years, going up into the New Testament time. This was the temple that Jesus would have encountered as a baby, as a child, as when he's in the temple overturning the tables because it's been changed into a marketplace, all that stuff. This would have been the temple that where Annas was the high priest, or Caiaphas was the high priest. But that Aaronic line starts to get a little cloudy during that Hellenistic period, and then also when it comes to the Roman rule. Rome, they were heavily anti-Semitic, and the region of Palestine was one where these people were troublemakers. We needed, they were very volatile. They have a history of rising up and trying to throw off their, the conquerors and all this stuff. And so there were several things that the Roman Empire were trying to do to keep these people sort of in check. And they did it in a number of ways. One, they stripped the Sanhedrin, which was the high court of the Jews. They stripped the Sanhedrin of its authority over capital punishment. Huge deal in the Jewish world. But they also deposed the current high priest, who was selected by Israel, and appointed their own high priest, someone who was politically expedient, someone who was a friend of Rome, but was also accepted by the Jews, and could sort of be the mediator, not between God and man, but could be the mediator between Rome and Israel. And Annas was a key figure in this because he kind of started this high priest dynasty. He had, I think, 5 sons who at one time or another served as high priest after Annas did. But then his son-in-law, Caiaphas, was one of the longest ruling high priests during this Roman time. And, Caiaphas, who, by the way, we have the bones of Caiaphas.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think back in the 90s, they were excavating to put in a water park. And I think the excavator fell through into a void.
Oh my gosh.
And it happened to be an old burial place with all these different bone boxes. And one of them they found had the name Caiaphas on it.
Oh my
gosh. It was
gosh.
very ornate. And
Wow.
they're like, all these, obviously all of a sudden the construction stopped, right? Because this is a archaeological site now. And they figured out these are the bones in this bone box. This is the remains of Caiaphas, who we read about in the New Testament.
Wow.
So they're on display in a museum right
about
now. We know where this guy is right now, and or at least his remains. But he ended up becoming, he was the one that was in charge during the time when Christ was being tried and crucified and all this stuff. So this is like AD 30-ish, right? And and we don't really we don't really have a good handle on all the events. We don't really think about it too much because a lot of times we just encounter names in the New Testament, we just kind of move on, but we don't realize that this dynasty of high priests with Annas and his 5 kids and Caiaphas, his son-in-law, these were the guys that were in charge, who were watching Jesus for most, if not all, of his life.
Okay.
And because Annas would have been appointed shortly after Jesus, within a couple of years after Jesus was born, when the Romans stripped the or imposed themselves on that whole process. But they were there when Jesus was growing up. They were there when a lot of the events of Jesus' life was occurring, when he was debating with the Pharisees, or people were trying to kill him at different times. He was causing, from their perspective, Jesus was causing problems, and in a very public way, because if the Roman appointed high priests were there to sort of be the go-between between the Israelites and the Roman Empire, Roman emperor, then all of a sudden there's a guy saying that he's the true king of Israel.
Right.
Well, that's a problem for the high priest, because the high priest is in support of Rome. And so there's pressure on the high priest to squash that. And so there's, that conflict between Jesus and Jesus' followers and the high priest at the time. And so, it ends up becoming super important. That's why, and not only that, but, later on in the book of Acts, which, if we're not careful, we often treat these books as separate things.
Right.
They're not related to each other. But the book of Acts starts pretty much right at the end of Jesus' life. And we're very quickly introduced to this guy named Saul, who later becomes Paul. And he's an enemy of Christians when we're first introduced to him. At, I think, Acts 7, at the stoning of Stephen, Saul is there presiding over that. And we're told that he's getting his marching orders from the high priest. So Saul starts off his life as a very highly educated Pharisee who's pursuing these disobedient, problematic followers of Christ and is persecuting them and killing a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And he's getting his marching orders from the high priest. Mm-hmm. That was probably Caiaphas. At least for part of that time, because the end of Caiaphas's rule in office as the high priest overlaps with the beginning of Saul's, Saul coming on the scene and being a persecutor of Christians and all that kind of stuff. It's super interesting how all that stuff kind of works together. And that's what I'm studying at the moment.
Very nice.
Yeah. I don't know how to conclude that, but that's kind of where I am at the moment.
It's a start. It's a good start. And if we don't, like you said, if we're not careful, we take the chapters as if that's the way history is delineated, right? Or the way that things are happening. The chapters and the verses are man-made. Is that correct?
Correct.
Just to be able to.
Helps us navigate it.
That's simply it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why a lot of the sentences start with something that sounds like a run-on sentence? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because of that, or whatever.
Yeah, and a lot of times we'll take one verse out here or there because we think these are just separate ideas. Mm-hmm. And it's really just the middle of a much longer sentence.
Right.
So we're just taking out a little phrase of a big sentence out, and we're building stuff on that. And that's kind of dangerous at times.
Yeah. Sure. Well, thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Thank you for everybody for watching or listening. We appreciate it. Donna, I love you. Hope, thank you for the food. We appreciate that. And we'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.